Well, this was an unexpected turn. I am now the owner of a 1991 Chrysler Daytona. Chrysler Daytona. Chrysler. Mr. Regular! You're not going to be visiting the southwest coast of Canada anytime soon, and I can't drive all the way out to Pennsylvania, so what would your thoughts be on an RCR-inspired fan-written review?
Oh, there's been a number of them. Yeah, you don't need my permission, just go ahead.
Well, alright. Say hello to the White Chariot, the sheep that don't beep, the Pro Beater. Hey dude, catch my burnout! Hop in, I'm heading over to Visions Electronics to get a 6 subwoofer. I'm gonna race every car off the line at every stoplight on the way. You know what? Let's get pizza, take all the badges off, and head for the back roads.
Holy shit. Holy shit. Holy shit, that was a Nissan NX. Holy fuck. Oh god.
The Dodge Daytona and its twin, the Chrysler Laser, were released to market in 1983 for the 84 model year. The former aimed at younger drivers searching for a sporty compact, and the latter a display of European luxury. They were built on top of the G platform, a derivative of the K platform. That's right. This is essentially a K car. A sports car K car. I'm not even mad. The car had quad-beam headlights and sharp, clean edges, as well as obvious cues from the Camaro and Porsche 924. There were 4 trims, including a first-year-only Mark Cross package, and 2 engines, the naturally aspirated 2.2-liter inline 4K engine, and the same inline 4K engine but with a turbo. In '86, they dropped one of the trims and added T-tops, and a 2.5-liter naturally aspirated inline 4. The Laser, which was available in the standard— Get the hell out of here, I'm busy! Go! I'm not joking, get out of here! Alright guys, let's get rid of our turn. Where was I? The Laser, which was available in the standard XE and XT trims, was put out to pasture where it lost some weight to prove itself still worthy and was subsequently rehired as a D-body Plymouth. All Daytonas exported to Canada were known as Chryslers from this point forward. 87 brought around a restyle with pop-up headlights, the Shelby Performance Package, and the second form of the K Turbo. There was a trim by Pacifica Studios, and models began exporting to Europe as Chrysler GS Turbo 2s. 88 brought back the CS trim. 89 had the Decepcione, which was a Daytona with a Lamborghini V8 stuffed into it? What the f— And the ES package. 90, interior work in a V6. 91. The Gulf War ended, the Soviet Union collapsed, Nirvana released Nevermind, Ren and Stimpy debuted on Nickelodeon, Terminator 2 stole the box office, Sonic the Hedgehog, Super Nintendo, Mario World, Street Fighter 2, Loud Colors, Pogs! Yes! I can finally listen to Welcome to the Jungle while I stick a tube down my— This is the kind of car that you find at the local car meet with 1 or 3 owners in tow. The dumbass wannabe street racer who's attempting to morph it into a race car and is destined to wrap it around a telephone pole, the hardcore enthusiast who keeps the miles low and the maintenance up, and a grandma, just looking to buy donuts from the Tims that the meet is being held at. The front end may have a nice, sleek face, but it has bags under its eyes, and its mouth is opening wide for a big ol' morning, officer, while damage to the body broadcasts the idea of a daily driver past its prime. Oh god. But behind it is another story entirely. It's a ball cap spoiler, a pair of sunglasses for taillights, smoking a fart cannon cigarette. It's cutting people off, giving zero shits about the speed limit, and running a stale yellow as an oncoming car is about to make a left. There's no dumpy 4-cylinder in this rocket, and that body damage is 1 part parked under a row of trees and 1 part ice storm. But the officer's headed in the other direction, so he'll be none the wiser. Oh yes! Let's go up, let's go down. Up, down, up, down. The movement of the headlights is controlled by a module inside of the dash. This piece of circuitry, through either heat or age, is destined to break its plotting, and what the hell is plotting? Puke goo into the cabinet of every one of these post-86 cars. When it comes to this car, however, I have no idea what the hell's going on. I can sit and play with the switch all day and get nothing, which led me to believe that the goop waterfall let loose and was long since dealt with. But then, one of the headlights retracted while my buddy was taking the car for a spin, and we didn't even notice it.
Yeah, that's why the goop. Yeah, that's the previous order, I can tell.
Here's the kicker. I did turn on the headlights while we were driving around. But it was after the headlight folded over. It just did it of its own volition, and has since continued to do so another 2 times. It is Herbie reincarnate, giving a sly wink to let the world know that he's still kicking and in control. Sometimes he'll even permit the module to function as intended. But it's not all happy days here. Headlight left is seized in the upright position, ever vigilant to make up for his brother, who suffers from apraxia and occasional blepharospasm.
That's a good angle.
Ooh.
Yes, he was jammed.
Moving on. I've heard that the only effective way to clean the prior mentioned goo out of the carpet, off the wiring harnesses, and whatever other surfaces it sticks to is with paint thinner. Yeah! That's what I want near my car. Paint thinner. Might as well drop the thing in a saltwater bath while we're at it. Replacement modules are hard to come by, and that's putting it lightly. But even if you did manage to locate one, odds are it'll just puke all over again like your best friend after getting wasted at the bar. Then you have to remove the seats and scrub for countless hours while silently hoping that it'll clean up nearly as well as the first time. I will give Chrysler some credit though. They realized that the pop-up headlights would eventually cease to function one way or another, and thus put a hand crank for each headlight beneath these rubber flaps under the hood. So if the module fails during an evening of partying, or has commanded the headlights into the resting position without hope of relenting, no worries, you won't be screwed for the drive home. The Mazda Miata also has these cranks, but the Daytona and its redesign predates the Miata by 2 years. I doubt Chrysler were the first to think of this system, but I couldn't find any other vehicles that share it, so hopefully the comments will help out here. This interior. This interior. I may have only experienced the tail end of the 90s, but this is a solid chunk of what I love about the time period. A healthy serving of common sense, and a heaping spoonful of cow and chicken. Mitsubishis are Chryslers, Chryslers have Mitsubishi engines. Fuck it! Let's turn our car into one that looks and feels like the love child of Japan and America inside and out. Sitting in it for the first time called forth memories of being behind the wheel of a '96 Toyota Paseo. My first real taste of automotive freedom. Holy G. The steering wheel is covered in the same soft plastic that's incredible in my hands. Fuck, I sound like I was trying to yes, I'm gonna fuck it. No. Simple but purposeful lines surround me, and the climate controls are simple, straight to the point. How do you want it? Where do you want it? And then there's the aftermarket stereo that yells, button presets, fuck that! Here's a joystick! Actually, having fun with this. The instrument panel also has this bulky overhang where the wiper controls and headlight switches live. And this thing protruding from the side over here, that's for the turn signals and high beams. Up for right, down for left, right to flash the high beams, right again with the headlights activated to flick them on. Never before in my life had I seen a design like this, and I soon began to wonder why. It's light, and in fingers reach, I don't even have to move my hand off the steering wheel. I just extend my fingers and it's on. And it turns one of the many quirks of this particular car into a non-issue. It's incredible. Then I remember that modern cars have so many features that a regular turnstock is more logical real estate. You know, for them, rear wipers and such, I guess. What really boggles my mind, though, is the wiper controls. It's this switch that travels from one end to the other, and it has an entire goddamn section dedicated to intermittent wiper speed, using the dimmer switch from your mother's basement. So tweak that intermittent wiper speed to your heart's content, and put that 2002 Toyota Echo to shame! The name of the car is printed on the dashboard because American manufacturers were standing by old traditions to mask their fear that consumers would forget that they're driving something built in the US of A? Japanese influence be damned? Shotgun gets to look at themselves. Well, the driver has to slide open a door first. No one had figured out how to place the horn over top the airbag yet, so regular buttons had to do. Speaking of, the horn doesn't work anymore. Neither does the airbag. And they're merely the first on the short list of things that have gone duty. The speedometer, odometer, and trip counter take regular trips down to LA, where they always manage to trash a local mall using a Power Wheels Jeep. Dynamic duo engine temp and battery voltage have tagged along for the ride at least once. Self-canceling for the turn signals shows up to work when it feels like it despite its boss. And the hand grip on the driver's door is attempting to move out on its own because its well-meaning parents had the gall to question the likelihood of it receiving a scholarship. An alarm system originally came with the car, but it threw a fit and skipped out before my purchase. This is the cup holder. It's the only one in the car, and it seems to double as an ashtray. Fitting something in it is like sticking your dick in a tight Ona hole. Particularly so when the shifter's in park. Come on! And God forbid if you want to store CDs on top of that. Almost makes me wish the original tape deck was still in here, seeing as there's a storage space in the center console specifically designed to hold cassettes.
Your little vials for your drugs and whatnot.
Those are fuses.
You inhale that and you get fucking fucked up.
You got a coin holder.
What are these buttons?
Yeah, they're coin holders.
Are you serious?
I'm serious.
You gotta be shitting me. Holy fuck, that is state of the art right there. I have never even seen anything like that. Wow.
You would fill this up with coins?
Yeah, you should do that. Just spend like 10 minutes just putting all the coins in there and be like, check out what I got. I'm rich. I got a whole 75 cents in there.
The glove box is too thin to store much of anything unless the contents are shoved up against the back in an upright position. Holy. It's the original owner's manual, complete with business cards and service history up to November 93. The chime will sound while turn signal has been left on for 10 miles. There's a tidbit you couldn't find on the internet. Tell me, how many used cars have you bought, Craigslist cars no less, that still had the owner's manual in it? Because this is my first. Sitting in this car is comfortable enough, but getting in and out can be a test of flexibility, especially for anyone assigned to the back seats. It's not so bad once you're back there, if you aren't too tall and the people up front provide adequate legroom in lieu of being dicks. Oh, what's that?
A reclining seat.
Colorful skulls on the inside, on a tinted window, because someone didn't want anyone to know how weird they were. I've never understood the appeal of a far cannon. It's like when an aspiring artist starts experimenting with shadows for the first time and draws them long and pronounced no matter the context. Sure, it has this cool depth factor, but compared to the rest of the piece, it just comes off fraudulent and deafeningly out of place. This exhaust drones at highway speeds and makes your eardrums feel like they're about to vibrate themselves out of their canals. I've learned to keep this down to a minimum for city driving, but it's the only scenario where that's possible. An exhaust change is on the horizon. Somewhere. Under a hood held up by 70s age hinge springs, Under a hood held up by hinge springs circa the 1970s is the much maligned Chrysler badged single overhead cam 2 valves per cylinder Mitsubishi 6G72 3.0 liter V6, making 141 horsepower and 171 foot-pounds of torque. This workhorse of an engine has proven itself to be a diligent construction worker who always clocks in on the dot to get the job done, but has a tendency to get into bar fights on a regular basis. As the years pass and the miles count higher, it develops a heart condition that requires life-saving surgery. What happens is that the valve guides, on the exhaust side especially, loosen with age and allow oil to escape out the tailpipe. Then, if the drain in the valve cover ever plugs up, the PCV will start drawing oil into its system. Both of these are why this engine is associated with oil consumption. The big coronary would be the baffles. They are located in the outer and inner layers of the valve covers, and if you're lazy about getting your oil changed, these baffles clog up with sludge, leading to an increase in oil pressure, which then leads to oil leaks from various engine seals and gaskets. Cam plugs also have a chance of leaking or just popping out and dumping oil everywhere. All that aside, if you get clips installed on the valve guides to prevent them from loosening, as well as replace the cam plug with one of wider design, and keep up on basic maintenance, then it's a happy camper. On a side note, engines built since November 15th, 91 have snap rings pre-installed on the exhaust valve guides from the factory, and engines built on October 2nd, 92 and onward had the valve stem seals revised. Also, if the cylinder heads are serviced, it's imperative that the EGR valve is either cleaned or replaced, and that quality head gaskets and positive valve stem seals are used. Otherwise, it'll pop those gaskets and drink oil like an alcoholic grandfather on his last legs. Versions of the engine, including a dual overhead cam variant with 4 valves per cylinder, were used all the way up to 2011, with applications in everything from the Dodge Caravan to the Mitsubishi Eclipse. That's a lifespan 3 years longer than the Ford Vulcan, an engine that might as well be the definition of long in the tooth. The father of the previous owner was a Daytona enthusiast who purchased this car from a teenager. At the time, it barely ran, had oil trickling from every seal like a backwoods creek, and was in dire need of a life-saving operation. Luckily, he had the dough to pay for it, so the Daytona was taken to a shop where it went under the knife. The surgery was a success, and the car left promising to not waste this second lease on life. After roughly a year on the job as a first car, it was sold to me with a little over 259,000 kilometers, or 161,000 miles, for you Yankees. Take that with a grain of salt, since there's no way to know just how often the odometer skipped out on work, or for how long. The engine's got a misfire now, and there's a blue tinged cloud that often comes out the tailpipe, a telling sign that the operation it received was the one it needed at the time, not the one it needs now, but true to its nature, it trucks onward just the same. The transmission is a 4-speed auto with overdrive, and it is, I'm just gonna say it, it's a goddamn slush box. I don't know, maybe I'm just too used to driving a stick? The combination of gears initially shout, "Yeah, let's do this!"
Damn, huh?
And then quickly backpedal to, "Oh, no, I gotta stay under the speed limit, otherwise I'll get pulled over." Like a jock who boasts a big game in the locker room, only to accomplish nothing out on the field. So coach yells him over for an aggressive earful, sends him back out, and the jock proceeds to score 3 consecutive touchdowns. Any pedal travel above 1/3 throttle is an experience akin to driving Miss Daisy beyond first gear, because the transmission always wants to shift within the 1500 and 1800 RPM window when the power comes on at $2,000. Sure, that may be good for gas mileage, but sometimes at the cost of practicality. Other drivers are guaranteed to become impatient and speed around you in the time that it takes to accelerate from a dead stop. Unless, of course, you put your foot in it, but you're not going to put your foot in it during the daily commute, because it's a V6, and it'll drink gasoline like a frat boy on a Friday night every chance it can. I got a story. Myself and a couple of my friends took this car down to White Rock one night for the hell of it. And if you've been to White Rock, you know how steep a lot of those roads are. It's like our own little San Francisco. We attempted to climb the section of First Street north of Columbia. And in second gear, the car slowed to a literal crawl halfway up and threatened to stall on us. Applying more throttle just made it worse. After about 10 seconds, it realized what was happening, kicked down into first, and proceeded to spin the wheels the rest of the way up. If you get a Daytona with an auto transmission, floor it up hills from a standstill, because, Jesus. It was a roller coaster stuck on the initial ascent, threatening to break the chain and speed off the tracks heading in reverse. The transmission also hesitates to engage at times. This is especially apparent while putting the hammer down. The engine revs free for a solid second and it catches. One might think this to be the result of 27 years of use, but they actually just came like this. Speaking of putting the hammer down, that's the ticket to unleashing this beast. Give him more gas to wake up the ECU, and
Flooring it down a straight highway. Woo!
it's in third gear and sailing. Next thing you remember, you're on Snake Pass, accelerating into corners. The way steering and tight suspension are given no signs of slipping, and the concept of becoming Canada's White Comet is making that handbrake look mighty tempting. The brakes feel weird, and I'm not the only one who thinks so. At first, they're really grabby, and then they fade off, kind of like drum brakes. Not to say that the front disc rear drum setup is the equivalent to all-around drums, just that it hasn't convinced me to completely trust it. A regular passenger has made it known that the Daytona feels like a brick while slowing down. Without ABS, that sensation can be harrowing at times.
Oh fuck, that's a... Holy nuts.
If this car were a person, it'd be a coworker who always appears level-headed. He stays well within the role expected of him, and is very accommodating to the requests of others. But get him drunk off his ass, and challenge him to a jump race between fire escapes, and he'll accept without hesitation and give it his all. Because the Daytona is just a big ol' just do it. An allegory for the friend who encourages your stupid heat-of-the-moment idea. Because its true nature, in all of its power, will only reveal itself if you dare to ignore what you know is acceptable and safe. Hammer the throttle further down than normal, don't ease off while taking the corners, fly on the straightaways, jump the gaps. This is why adolescents try to race these and end up in poles. This is how elderly ladies are able to drive these things. This car beckons dumb decisions, and it will answer your call when you give in. And once that happens, all guarantee of maintaining control is out the window. So it's all up to you to keep yourself in check. Alright, this last bit is going to go at the end of the video because I literally just noticed it today. So these are the keys. Nothing. There's no lockout. Why isn't there a lockout? Ah!